Hi friends, welcome to this podcast on reflections on 2 decades of insurance liberalization. Indian insurance industry is growing. We now have 24 life insurance companies and 33 non-life insurance companies. Institute of Actuaries of India is a respectable institution across globe, and Indian actuaries have presence across Asia, Europe and America. The Indian regulator IRDAI here has a very unique culture of inviting comments and feedback from industry participants. But do we know who envisaged it? Do we know how the IRDAI, the then IRA, was established? What inspired and what was the roadblock? How Actuarial Society of India became Institute of Actuaries of India? How GCA, COVID times VAC started? If not, come and join us on this mesmerizing and glorious journey of Indian insurance industry, its regulator, institutionalization of Actuarial Society and much more. I, Yogita Arora, will be your fellow traveller. The best is that Shri Rangachary ji, the first chairperson of IRDAI, is holding our hands through this journey. We will cover this journey in 4 parts, and each part tells us how the threads were woven together to make the insurance industry what it is today. So welcome to our first episode of how IRDAI was established. Let's start this journey through the history. Shri Rangachary ji, this name needs no introduction to the actuaries or the people working in the insurance industry. Shri Rangachary ji was given the steering wheel of the private participation when the government in 1999 decided to open up the sector. We as actuaries owe a lot to him because it was his vision only which prompted Actuarial Society of India in 1997 to come up with a professional structure and get formally institutionalized under Act of Parliament, now known as the Actuaries Act 2006. So a very heartfelt thank you for joining us here today, sir. Thanks a lot. I have many questions, but given the time constraint, I have picked the major ones and I will try to do justice to the time. So thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you, Geeta, for that introduction, and then I am deeply grateful to you and through you to the Institute of Actuaries for having thought of me to be someone whose services have been found useful in the cause of the Indian insurance industry. It has been a great pleasure to be associated with the industry and the champions of the industry, both in the private and the public sectors. And it has been my good fortune to know a lot of people who have risen up very highly in the ranks of the insurance industry, not only in India but all over the world. And my association with the setting up of this authority and its functioning as the initial head had given me a tremendous look into the world insurance industry, and I am deeply grateful to those who made that possible. And as far as the setting of the authority, you were mentioning about its being set up in 2000. April 2000 was the time when it was formally recognized, and we had the insurance and this one IRDA Act implemented by the Government of India.
Yeah.
But then a lot of preliminary work has gone into the establishment of this office, and the first inkling about the broad basing of the Indian insurance industry which the government had came to me towards the close of 1995, when my good friend MP Modi, who was the chairman, who was the secretary of that committee, Malhotra's committee, gave me a broad hint that something like an insurance regulator was going to be established.
Okay.
And he thought that since I was retiring from government in 6 months' time from then, and he knew of my association with the commercial institutions, this and all, and he said, "Why don't you become the first chairman of that authority?" I just thought it was a joke on the part of Mahesh. So then officially I came to know of the thinking of the government about the setting up of this authority from my boss then, the then finance minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he told me in the second week or so of January 1996 that he was having a plan to send me to this authority after I ceased to be the chairman of the CBDT.
Okay.
So he was mentioning that, you see, that was the period when they were contemplating going for an election. He said, after the election, when we come back, we will give you an extension to see that the Finance Act was passed, and after that you will go and take over as the initial chairman of the authority.
Okay.
I was not very, what should I say, greatly enthused over this offer, because I told him, sir, I have no requirement for a post-retirement job. So why don't you permit me to go and retire? And, no, he said, you please listen to me. This is what we have in mind for you. Okay. I said, all right, let the elections be done. And after that, we'll see what could be done about this. Anyway, they lost the election. But then, and when the time for my retirement came on the 31st of July of that year, my colleague and I, we were retiring on the same day. We went to see the then finance minister, Mr. Chidambaram.
Okay.
So when we went to see him in the afternoon, he said, why are you here? He said, sir, we are retiring today, and so we wanted to take leave of you. And no, it is just noon and all those things. Why do you want to see me at this one? No, sir, we thought that you would be busy in the afternoon, so we will take leave of you and then push off at 5 o'clock from the office. No, you say, you stay in your room at 5 o'clock, I will see you in your room. Okay. It was the first occasion when some minister tells me that a mere government servant, he says, I will come and see you in your room. And promptly at 5 o'clock, he trooped in. And then we had a small meeting, but before then, Mr. Manik Singh Ahluwalia, who was the finance secretary, he had called me around 3 o'clock to tell me, he said, Chief, you are not retiring, you are going to become the chairman of the insurance authority. Okay. So when the finance minister came, and then people had tea with him and all those things, at the point of leaving the room, he said, look, we have issued an order appointing you as the chairman of the authority, but that order will be gazetted only day after tomorrow, because I don't want people to learn that you have been appointed immediately after your this one. So you go and take over as chairman tomorrow. Okay. That was 31st July. He wanted me to take over on the 1st of August. Okay. So that is how I landed here in that office. And fortunately or unfortunately for the insurance industry, I continued to be there till 2003. And to my mind, it has been a great experience. Yeah. And a great, what should I say, gave me a lot of education and experience in handling issues. And not only at the national level, but at the international level. And that's how I came up to be the chairman of this authority. You were mentioning IRDAI and all those things. Now this authority was called Insurance Regulatory Authority.
IRA, yes. It was Insurance Regulatory Authority.
When we started.
Right.
There is a small I think, incident on this. I think I should tell you this, share this with you.
Surely, sir.
In 1996, Mr. Subramaniam, who came to me from the LIC, and who is one of the members, he is an actuary, he came to assist us in the authority. Okay. He and I had gone on an official tour to UK.
Okay.
And when we were traveling and all this, so we were taken round from one office to another by a representative of the British government. Very senior lady she was. And suddenly we were stopped by a police constable.
Okay.
See, by a chit of a girl, I think she was an Indian girl, not more than 20 years of old, this one. She stopped us because sitting back in the rear seat, I was not wearing a seat belt.
Okay.
She said to that lady who was taking us around, no, you committed this one, I could charge you with this, but I looking at you, I see you're an Indian, this, that and all. Then that lady guide told her, look, he is the chairman of IRA. She said he's the chairman of IRA, and IRA those days had a very different connotation. It was considered to be the Irish Republican Army,
Okay.
and lots of problems were faced by the British government in this one. So she looked at me and suddenly said, "I am in the Insurance Regulatory Authority, so there is no need for you to get confused on this." So anyway, they said, "All right, this one, since you are a guest, I will allow you to go, but then be careful in this country and all." So that is how, there are some of these incidents which keep coming back to my mind when you ask me questions about IRA and all. But in the initial days, when I joined this authority, there were two members. And one was drawn from the general insurance industry, and the other was drawn from the life insurance industry. The man from the general insurance industry was Mr. K.C. Mittal. He had come from Oriental Insurance. Okay. And we had Mr. Govardhan from the life insurance industry. And Govardhan, is one of your very respected members. Yes. And this one. Yes. So they were there hardly for about a couple of months with me, because when they came in, they were told that they will not get any promotions in their line and they should continue to be in the authority. Okay. But somehow or the other, they perhaps felt that this authority will not get going. See, industry may not get broad-based. So they had that feeling perhaps of this one in their minds. So at the first opportunity, both of them left. Oh, okay. Mr. Mittal became the chairman of the GIC and Govardhan became the chairman of the LIC. Okay. And for a number of months afterwards, I didn't have any replacements. The result that I was literally thrown to the wolves by myself, and so we had to do basic work and all. And I didn't mind doing it because I had a capable team under me, drawn from the insurance industry, Indian insurance industry, who had come to us. Hardly 5 people then, which continued. That group continued to be with me till I retired from this one, the core group which we had set up. And we did a lot of study, and we should also recognize Mr. Malhotra, who had furnished the report and all these things. He was going around the country on the circuit, mentioning about the recommendations of the committee and how the opening up of the insurance sector to private participation might help the government's endeavor in gathering of sources for the development of the country. Indeed. And most of the time I used to be with him. So I had an experience of various locations in this country where we had gone and then talked to the people about the necessity for the broad basing of the insurance industry in the country. So that has been a great experience. We visited a number of cities in the country, and that's how the initial attempts were made for a public participation in whatever we did. We put across our views. We encouraged discussion in the public. And public used to call us all sorts of things, they will say, somebody will say yes, somebody will say no. But that gave us an idea of what the public feeling on this issue was. And that is how that's enabled us to move forward in the making of our thinking. Okay. And we also, during that period, after 96 and this one, we tried to put together, with the help of the Ministry of Law, a draft, this one act for purpose of establishment of the authority and broad basing of the insurance industry in India. We had tremendous support from the then Joint Secretary, Mr. T.K. Vishwanathan, who then became Secretary a little later, and was also one of the first members of the regulatory authority as representing the government of India. Yeah. So we had done all these things, and I don't know whether you are interested in this, but then we had we had drafted a law, and we had taken inputs from people. And in the meantime, in 1996, when we went, Subbu and I went out of the country to have this one tour of the various places. We had gone to Paris, and we then utilized that visit because we had been invited by the International Association of Insurance Supervisors.
Okay.
India, the IRA was then asked to become a member of the IAIS, which we did. And we were given a number of, what should I say, tremendous amount of respect as a representative from a growing country. See, a developing country, we were considered to be a model for other developing countries to follow. So this sort of interaction between an international association and our organization enabled us to firm up our thinking on what is to be done and how it is done. So all these have gone into the making of that act which you see today.
Right.
And when I always used to believe in one thing, that before we should not take anybody by surprise.
Yeah.
And so whatever we were planning to do, we were discussing this openly with FICCI and there's various organizations representing commerce and industry in this country.
Right.
We used to have discussions, and that enabled us, that during that period, and in FICCI, we had Mr. Mitra, who was the Secretary General. I should place on record my deep appreciation of his great help, as Secretary General of that unit. He later became the Finance Minister of the Government of West Bengal. And the type of support that he gave the fledgling organization, the insurance regulator, was something worthwhile to be recorded.
Okay.
And we had, therefore, a number of sessions, conferences will be held where these things would be discussed and all those things. But here I would like to mention one of the very interesting incidents, which I don't think I had mentioned to you earlier. So I was invited to attend to a session on insurance by the Indian Merchants Chamber in Bombay. There are a lot of people, this one, gathering of a number of professionals in that meeting. So I was asked to be there. They asked me to inaugurate that session, and so I went and then had my role to play as the inaugural one. After I finished my speech, I left the podium and came to sit amongst the participants. And So there I had discussed in the course of my that the authority had an idea to open up this sector in stages. So we would, after we finalize ourselves and after we get a legal right to exist, we will issue invitations to persons to come and set up insurance companies in India. And so we will do it in stages. I think first lot we will say the window will open for 15 days or 20 days. After we do that, let us say after 3-4 months, when we felt it was a necessity, then we will again ask for a second lot of applications and all those things.
Okay.
So when I came and sat in amongst the assembled people, there were half a dozen persons sitting around me. Perhaps they didn't recognize me, so they said they were talking amongst themselves. And one of them was said, I say, Hare bhai, this is the most excellent opportunity. We will put in our application, get a registration and sell the license. And so, without setting the company, we will get a license to establish an insurance company and sell the license. So this is the question of, The people were interested not in the development of the insurance industry, but they were this set of people were interested only in getting a license and selling it.
And selling it, yeah, for the
This
profit.
is this was going on at least for half an hour, 45 minutes. At the end of which I was again called to come to the stage to make my concluding remarks.
Okay.
I don't know whether I was this one I was right or not or saying, but then when I started speaking, I felt that I made an offer when I spoke first here amongst you that we will open up this industry in small this one windows and then grant licenses as we move along.
Okay.
Now I have decided that we will throw open the industry open wholly.
Okay.
The process of registration of new insurance companies will go on forever. So this registration process is not going to be closed and then reopened later and all. See, anybody who wants to ensure their participation in this industry can walk into our office, file application, and then get his examination examined, so that the question of selling of licenses will not arise.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know whether those gentlemen who were making these remarks and all, they might have been disappointed, but then that gave me a very great lesson in public speaking, that you must be careful when you speak something that this one is not. And see, that sort of a relationship which I had established, and I used to offer the associations, trade bodies, this, that, and all, and offer an invitation to come and participate in the discussions with us and how they want to move. That was a great advantage to me in the later days when the insurance industry opened up and people started coming in. There was a free flow of people into my office.
Okay.
Of Indian entrepreneurs, foreign investors. So they used to come and discuss openly with me and with my colleagues.
Okay.
All their problems which they will try to sort out with us. Right. So that sort of an interaction between the industry and the regulator was something which I considered to be the best in this situation.
Right.
And that's how I felt those days. And I think after 20 years now, I also feel today that I didn't do any wrong in having set up that practice.
Absolutely, sir.
Maybe no other regulator follows that practice, but then I thought is a new organization. It has got its own ambitions how to develop an industry which had been there in existence and then got nationalized, and then we are trying to develop that industry on modern lines and all. That's one way where I had done this, and this is how I must say, when we drew up our all the regulations and all those things before, we used to put it in the public knowledge, invite comments, give them a sufficient time for bodies to react to our views, and then incorporated whatever was necessary in those draft regulations. And that's how this IRDA and all those things had moved in the area of regulation. And I must see those days, 96, 97, 98, when this one also 99, when we had passed this bill and the parliament and established the IRDA officially in April 2000. The office of the IRDA was visited by the high and the mighty also.
Okay.
I don't know. We had received Mr. Tata. We had received Mr. Kumaramangalam Birla.
Okay.
And we received all those people and see who are interested to set up an insurance industry in India. So they came and they used to extend to us all courtesies and all those things. And my constant helper in this used to be Uday Kotak, who is still today running that bank. He used to be very much interested in this entire enterprise. And in the initial stages, it was he who had, what should I say, put in some sort of an effort to gather people, discuss these issues openly and all. So this is how, these are the initial days where we had extended our arms of cooperation to people, and then we had received tremendous support from the industry and the public. I must admit that it has been a very significant help in our establishment and in the running of the organization.
Surely.
When we were this one, one or more things before I would say subject. See, when we had this one, the insurance regulatory bill was introduced in Parliament during, and Mr. Gujaral was the Prime Minister.
Okay.
Then Mr. Chidambaram was then the Finance Minister. So we had introduced this bill. It has been discussed in this one. And the promised support from the other parties finally did not come at the time of the passing of the bill. Then requested the government what they wanted to do, whether they would go and get the bill defeated or they would like to withdraw the bill and all those things. The bill was by Mr. Chidambaram on the sense of the House. And then we were a little, what should I say, there were some people, I don't know whether I should say this openly, some people from the Indian insurance industry itself who had opposed the passing of that bill. And though there was a broad understanding between the regulator and regulated on the necessity of the bill, there were some people, they thought they would lose their importance at this one. Anyway, they opposed this bill and this one. But tremendous support to the establishment of this authority in those days when the bill got defeated and all this came from Suresh Prabhu, who was a member of the Parliament those days, and he stood up and spoke very eloquently on the necessity for the passing of this bill. Anyway, then it was this party who saw that the bill was not pushed through. So we had a period of, what should I say, interregnum between the period when the bill first introduced was defeated and the bill was again reintroduced sometime later when there is a change in the ministry, and then it got through. In between, we had these visitors from the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. They are in India on a visit. And I was one of the very few people from the government who had been asked to be present at home, given to them, to the royal visitors by the High Commissioner for in India. So we were there. So we were lining up to receive Their Majesty. And then the Queen was coming from my right and the Duke was coming in from my left. And then both of them stopped before me. They recognized me and said, "What are you doing? Why have you not passed this bill or something?" And the most curious question came from the Queen. When she said, "When are you going to give licenses to my companies?" So that was the interest that had been created for the broadening of the insurance sector in India those days. Then it was something, you sit back, when you relax, you think of whatever these things have happened. So there are people who have played a significant role in their assumption in the setting up of the authority. The other thing I would like to mention before we close the discussion on this I should not say discussion because I have been talking and you have been listening. And is this, see, as a part of this one, my education tour or something, the government had permitted me to go out to attend international conferences on insurance and this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have been taken to the United States so many times in my this one period of this one my chairmanship of the IRDA.
Okay.
And every time I have gone there, this used to happen. There is a Indo-US Trade Council.
Okay.
Which, so they used to invite me every time I had gone there to come and address them and give them an idea of the current stage of development of the industry in India, what we propose to and how do we propose to do and all these things. Arising out of these meetings and discussions, there used to be a gentleman, I forget his name now, he was the Assistant Secretary of State in the government of United States.
Okay.
He came and then he became very attached to me. We were discussing all issues that. So in the formulation of our regulations, various regulations which the IRDA had made immediately after it was pronounced to be alive in April 2020. In April 2000.
Okay.
See, he was he was trying to talk us into giving this job of writing the regulations to the American interests.
Okay.
He said that the government of the United States will try to write out these regulations, what we should be doing and all those things. So it didn't appeal to me. I told him sir, you see, I have a pride and I would like to do my work by myself.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get somebody else to do this job. But I can offer you one thing. Anyway, whatever I do it only with a broad participation of all the interests concerned and all. And before I put these draft regulations on seeking public opinion, I will share with you a copy of these regulations. You can go through those regulations, and if you find something to be done, you come back to me. We will see what is to be. We will discuss it further.
Okay.
I should say here, instead of getting it done in the States, a group of 7 people landed up in Delhi, led by this gentleman, and then we had 4 representatives of the regulators in the states. In the states there is each state has a regulator, insurance.
Regulator, yes. Yeah.
And there were 2 advocates. They all came, and then I shared with them. At the end of 3 days of intense scrutiny, they came back and told me, look, all this is fine, but we have only one suggestion. Yeah. He said, why don't you change the equity participation from 26 to 51? I said, that's a non-negotiable. This one will remain 26 on the basis of government policy. So that is how, we had established the authority, we had made it functional and all those things. I am glad that I was there at the time when this was asked to be done. But I must admit that I had received tremendous support from the ministers. Earlier it was Mr. Manmohan Singh, then he was followed by Mr. Chidambaram, and then I ended up with my own batchmate, Mr. Yashwant Sinha. Okay. Mr. Yashwant Sinha was the person who carried this through in Parliament, and I don't know whether it is worthwhile mentioning, whether it will be applauded or this one. The act was passed by the party which had opposed it in 1997, 98.
Yeah.
It was brought in by the BJP government, of which Mr. Yashwant Sinha was the minister.
Minister. Yeah.
And he did a wonderful job of piloting it and all these things. And there are certain incidents which had happened, but then they are not to be publicly mentioned because it is not this one. And but I had tremendous support from the government in getting this through. I could have also worked for the attachment of the pensions work, pension authority also to the IRDA, but then it got derailed and then they have set up another authority. But to my mind, pensions and this one life policies, they are parts of the same coin.
Yeah.
They are two sides of the coin, where most of the work is done in the insurance sector and then the investment is made and this one. So it's all right. We have seen growth of many regulators in the financial industry, and this is one more. And I don't know, the one thing which I would like to mention is that we were not able to find a place for us in Delhi. In fact, we were told very plainly by the government that you can get out of Delhi and go wherever you want. We will not give you accommodation.
Okay.
So then I had this one, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu, who was the chief minister of Andhra those days.
Mm-hmm.
He was visiting Delhi, and then somebody had put him on this idea saying that establishment of IRDAI's office in Hyderabad would help you and this one. And the man had very, what should I say, long aims and ideas. He wanted to create that Hyderabad into a financial center.
Yeah.
In fact, he had told me openly,
Mm-hmm.
sir, I want this to be parallel to Bombay. You have to, this one, compete with Bombay and set up a financial center in the city of Hyderabad.
Okay.
That is why you see a part of the developed city of Hyderabad today is called the financial city,
Yes. Yeah.
where institutions have got their offices and all.
Yes.
And he was compelling me to come and shift my office.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Hyderabad. He said he will give me land free for setting up the authority. He said we'll give you offices free for the time being and all those things. And he executed all those promises, I must tell him. But I was telling him, look, it is not my this one domain to agree to shift this to this one. You have to go to the finance minister and then ask him for that. And unfortunately, one day when I was sitting with the finance minister, he walked in.
Okay.
Mr. Naidu. He walked in and said, sir. Then I told him, look, now you are before the finance minister. Whatever request you have been making before me, you better go and ask him.
Okay.
That is how the situation of Hyderabad, the IRDA's headquarters in Hyderabad came about.
So friends, this brings us to the end of our first episode of this podcast. I'm sure you enjoyed this journey as much as I did. I truly was living in those times and imagining how Rangachary sir would have been doing all this. What eventful and challenging those times must have been. In the next episode, we'll learn how opening up of the insurance sector helped various professions, especially us, actuarial profession, and how actuarial profession got institutionalized. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you in the next episode. Till then, take care and stay safe.